world, it's Keely. Welcome back, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Keely, like I just said, and I make book content and also have been taking you along with me on my journey to deciding if a PhD is the next step for me. What I wanted to do is get another vlog going. It is currently, what day is it? Today is Wednesday? Yeah, today is Wednesday, and it is pretty early in the morning. I have a bunch of meetings and some things I have to get done today for work. But other than that, I have things that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So the first thing that I want to do on top of work is read another chapter in Ali Abdaal's book that he wrote about feel-good productivity. I have been reading that one and really enjoying it. I kind of like skip around through all of the different examples that he gives. But so far, I've really been enjoying the fact that he's bringing mental health into the idea of being productive, and really that like if you feel good, if you have a good environment, if you have a good support system, you're more likely to be productive, whatever that looks like for you. I think that that's very important and something that I definitely have noticed with other productivity kind of self-help books, or even honestly Ali Abdaal's Skillshare thing that he did, which was like his productivity masterclass that I ended up taking. And it was really interesting. I thought he brings up a lot of good like theories and ideas around productivity, but my issue with his content was the same issue that I tend to have with a lot of these self-help books, in that they make it very simplified and they're like, oh, all you have to do is just not get distracted. All you have to do is just work on things. And it's like, well, life is not that simple. And I'm a social worker by training. Anytime that someone says like, oh, we all have the same 24 hours. No, we don't. I have a very different 24 hours than someone that has kids, or than someone that has kids and is working multiple jobs, or someone that doesn't have kids but is working multiple jobs to survive, or that's a caregiver, or that has neurodivergence, or that has a disability, or. So I just, anytime that someone's like, oh, just don't get distracted, or, you know, just make time for it. Like, it's not that simple. But I am enjoying his book. I don't think he's making it as like simplified as he has in the past. Also really need to pick back up The Making of Asian America and get into the next chapter. I don't necessarily want to finish the chapter today. It would be amazing if I could, because it's not that long and it's got a bunch of pictures. So I think I might be able to finish chapter 4 in this book so that I can keep making progress with it, because I am really, really enjoying this one. I also read, well, I kind of skimmed because I was getting frustrated with it. I finished the essay on China from The Historian, and then I tried to read the one on the United States, but it just came across as like really pretentious, and I wasn't necessarily enjoying it. Also, I think author Peter Onuf is a historian, and I don't know if he's like a historian of American history or what, but it was very like only talking about the very beginnings of the United States when, you know, they were first coming over from Europe. And then he referred to things very lightly as like the problem of slavery. I'm like, I think it's more than a problem. But I don't know, I didn't super enjoy that. So I was just like, whatever. So I skipped that one. And now I'm into the one on Japan. And you can see I'm already highlighting the crap out of it. Really, really want to continue on with the one for Japan, which is a decent length. We'll be hopefully getting that one done today. I also started then the next chapter in China in 10 words. This word is leader, which has also been really interesting because we're learning about Mao, and I don't know anything about Mao, so it's super interesting to finally begin learning about him, and would like to make progress on that. And then the final thing I want to make progress on is reading Where Research Begins. I read the first 2 chapters the other night. I did the like tasks, the questions that the authors created, and then it said, okay, but wait 24 hours and then come back. And it's been now over 24 hours and I haven't come back. So I want to do that today. And then the other thing that I've been working on is I've been listening to the Squiggly Careers podcast, and I'm kind of obsessed with it. And this is a podcast that is by 2 women, Helen and, well, what's her name? I want to say Sarah. I don't know if Sarah's right. It's Helen and something. And I only remember Helen because one of my best friends' name is Helen. But they are each episode is talking about a different thing that has to do with productivity and careers, recognizing that a lot of people don't have a ladder-based career where like you start at the bottom and you work your way incrementally up. I like squiggly careers instead of lattice careers, and lattice is what I have always been taught in like corporate America, which is where I work as a consultant. And so I recognize lattice is very similar to squiggly, but squiggly sounds more fun, so I like squiggly. Basically just saying that like people bounce all over the place, and you might go up the ladder and then you might go sideways and then you might go down, and I went down and then sideways with mine because I worked my way up from direct service in social work up to supervisor, and then down or kind of lateral to kind of freelance consulting, and then a tiny step down into the position that I'm in now, and I'm working my way back up. It's in order to like change careers, I went down a little bit. And so it's been an interesting process, and having a podcast that's by these two women that are very chill and they laugh a lot and that are talking about things that's like, okay, that makes sense. One of the things they talked about doing was having a development diary, and so that's what I did. I have this book, well, I have this notebook that says a little progress each day that I got from TJ Maxx or Marshalls or one of those, and it's just a plain notebook, but what I've been doing is taking notes every time I listen to a podcast. I've been trying the last 3 days. What I've done is I've sat here, and their podcasts are about a half hour each. So for a half hour in the morning, I listen to this podcast and then I take notes and I write down things that I find interesting, or they have sometimes like questions to help guide you in your development. Like the first one that I listened to is episode 373, Ask the Expert Failure. I recommend listening to that one, and I will put the information in the description down below. But that one, you're talking, they're talking with an expert who has looked a lot at the concept of failure, and I freaking love what she had to say about it. So she has a book, so of course I want to get the book, but she talks about intelligent failure and the difference between a failure and a mistake. So she says, failure is the undesired result of novel forays into new territory, an experiment that you had good reason to believe might work, but it failed, and no way to know that it wouldn't work because you've never done it before. A mistake is a deviation from a known practice or protocol. So I like that, in that she's like, a failure, we have to get rid of this idea that failure is bad and we learn from failure. Failure is when you're trying something new and it didn't work out for whatever reason, but you learn from it and you know what to do better, so that you can make a practice or a protocol. A mistake is when there is a practice or protocol and you didn't follow it, or you didn't do what you were supposed to do and a mistake happened. So she said, you know, much rather have someone experience a failure than have someone experience a mistake if possible, but obviously it happens. And then there's basic failures, which are caused by human errors, versus complex failures where multiple things went wrong along the way. Super duper interesting. Really, really enjoyed that one. I actually listened to that podcast episode twice because I listened to it in the car and then I wanted to take notes. So I thought that was really interesting. A different one, like the other one that I found really interesting so far, was how to spot career red flags. And so I wrote all those down. That one was a great episode. And then the things that are really great about this podcast, I'm obsessed with this podcast right now. Things that are really great is that the creators have a ton of content to support you. So they have like a LinkedIn page, they have a website, they have an email that comes out with summaries, they have notes, they have worksheets, they have like all kinds of crap. So it's so great. I freaking love these ladies. That is what I have been doing in the mornings. I'm talking kind of fast because I have 5 minutes until I have a meeting I have to get to, but that's kind of everything that I've been doing. I also went to Target yesterday while I was waiting to pick up dinner because the place that we ordered from is in the same parking lot as Target, and our food wasn't ready yet. And I was like, well, why don't I just go to Target? So I did that, and I picked up a book. And this one is the 7-Year Slip by Ashley Poston. I read her other book, or one of her other books, that was, what is her other book? It was so good. The Dead Romantics. I thought The Dead Romantics was freaking wonderful. I had such a great time with that book. And this one sounds very similar, but also different enough that I'm hoping that I will enjoy it. I have seen people reading this one, but I have not been paying attention to what they've been saying because I try not to get influenced by booktubers, even though that's kind of the point. But this one is about Clementine, who has to move to her aunt's house, her late aunt's apartment. She finds a man standing in the kitchen. However, he exists 7 years in the past. She lives 7 years in the future, and it sounds like a time travel kind of romance. I don't know. I love that her romances are not like straightforward. Like they're really weird and kind of dark. I'm hoping that I will enjoy this one. I have a work trip coming up, and we will see if I take this one with me or if I just take my Kindle. I'm going to be traveling for less than 24 hours. Well, no, that's not true. I'm traveling over the course of 24 hours, but I will be in the place that I'm going for less than 24 hours. So I think I'm going to end up technically spending more time traveling than actually working, which sucks, but that's just how it's working out. This is one that I'm hoping I can pick up soon. I am reading Hollowpox, really enjoying it. I'm now over halfway through it, but those books are massive, so I'm continuing to make my way through that one. I did start the second book in the Deborah Harkness series. So the first one was The Discovery of Witches. The second one is Shadow of Night. I think that's what it's called. I don't love the setting. I wish that it would go back to where it was from the first book, but I don't want to give any spoilers. I am enjoying that. I really like the characters in those books. That's everything. I mean, this is a lot. I'm hoping I can get a lot done today, but we will see how this day plays out and how much caffeine I can have. But now I have to go because I have 2 minutes before this meeting. Today is Friday, and it is the Friday before Easter, so Good Friday. I do not have today off. I do not have Monday off. But I have a lot of stuff going on. Today I just have a bunch of work that I have to get done, and then also a lot of reading that I want to do. Tomorrow I want to go for a long run on the trail, and then we have our D&D game night with friends. And then Sunday I'm going to family's house for an Easter egg hunt. And then Monday and Tuesday, I will be traveling into Chicago for just a night for a conference. So I have a ton of stuff that I want to get done today to prep for being on the road Monday and Tuesday, and also for having a relatively busy weekend. I wanted to get started by talking about the books that I've been reading because of course I do. I finished this one. So this is Histories of Nations, How Their Identities Were Forged, edited by Peter Furtado. This one is a collection of essays, all from different historians from all over the world. And the only ones that I read were China, the United States, and Japan. Those were the ones that I was most interested in and why I purchased this book. Maybe eventually I'll go back and read all the other ones. I was really only interested in China and Japan and the United States. China was really interesting, talking about the history of how they keep notes and document things for their history. United States was pretentious and I didn't like it at all, so I just skimmed that one. And then Japan was also really interesting and talking about kind of this concept of nationalism and modernity, and that was pretty fascinating. So I definitely will probably go back and reread the China and Japan ones once I do more of a deep dive into their history. But this one I'm going to mark off as read and put on my shelves over there for my East Asian collection. I have completed the first 2 essays in this one, People and Leader. The next one is Reading, so I'm very excited to get to that one. This is China in 10 Words, and it's so fascinating so far, really talking about the author's experience growing up and living in China, and then also kind of culturally and historically what the different words mean. So the Leader one was super interesting. He spent a lot of time talking about Mao, and that was really fascinating. I don't know anything about Mao, so I was pretty interested in learning more, and will definitely want to pick up books about that guy because he seemed really fascinating. The other book then that I have started reading is In Order to Live by Yeonmi Park. This one is all about her escape from North Korea and then kind of discovering the United States and the world and what the rest of the world thinks of North Korea and what's actually happening over there. So fascinating. I have zero knowledge of what the actual ins and outs of what is going on in North Korea, so really enjoying that one. I also then would like to start the next chapter in The Making of Asian America. This one is going to be talking about Japan and it's Japanese immigrants, so super excited for that. That chapter is really long though, so I want to make progress. And then I also haven't picked up in a couple days since I read the first 2 chapters of Where Research Begins. I've just been really burnt out on life, so I haven't really had the right mindset to actually start thinking about research again. But I want to work across all of these books and get some more read over the weekend and then hopefully get back into it. Just been doing a lot the last couple days, but those are kind of the books that I want to get started reading or get back into reading and hopefully be able to make some really good progress. right, time for an update. It is now Monday. I am in my hotel, as you can see. It's super duper nice. I'm only here for a night. I am currently in Chicago. It's weird driving, well, not driving, I didn't drive. It's weird flying from Philly to Chicago because it's 2 hours, which is the same amount that it is from Philly to Orlando. So the United States makes no sense, but it is about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 3 o'clock in the afternoon? It's 3 o'clock, technically, yeah. And I am just waiting for some of my colleagues to get here, but I did buy a book in the airport bookstore. I didn't get any footage of the airport bookstore because there were so many people, but the Chicago O'Hare Airport has a bookstore called Barbara's that I freaking love. I went in there and of course I got a book. Once I brought with me though, I brought Fledgling by Octavia Butler, which I'm supposed to be reading for my work book club, so I need to read that. I read more in the airport this morning of The Making of Asian America, so I'm now up to chapter 6, I want to say? 7. I'm now up to chapter 7, which is South Asian immigrants and the Hindu invasion. Super interesting reading about Korean and Japanese immigrants. And then of course I brought my Kindle, and on the plane I normally read from my Kindle because then I don't have to have a light turned on, and it's not bothering anyone, but I always feel like it's bothering someone. So on my Kindle I'm reading a book on disability queer theory intersections, and it is like intersectionality. So fascinating so far, really enjoying that one. And then when I was in the bookstore, I was like, well, I have to get something. So I bought this one, which is called Abolition Geography, Essays Toward Liberation by Ruth Wilson Gilmore. And the bookseller at the bookstore said that she read this one for a book club and she really enjoyed it. Since I have a couple hours to just hang out, what I'm going to do is just sit here, drink some water, and get some reading done. Okay, so I owe you guys an update because typically I would like to have my vlog already like mostly edited by now, but I don't have it. But I am back home. I was in Chicago for 2 days, less than 2 days. So Monday and Tuesday. It is now Wednesday. And this morning I spent 2 hours putting together my friggin' standing desk, which is from Autonomous, not sponsored. They didn't send it to me. I paid for it with my own money. And so far I'm in love with it, but I will say that the process of getting the standing desk was a little bit of a pain in the ass, and then also putting it together was not the most intuitive thing. The instructions were slightly confusing and it took a long time, but I have my standing desk together, so I have already been messing with the settings, like, putting it back down. I freaking love it. I'm so excited to not sit all freaking day. Very excited for this, and of course I would hope that it would be nice outside like spring day, but nope, it is freaking cold and pouring. But I need to give you guys some updates. So I've been doing a bunch of reading. I got a bunch of reading done still while I was working, which is what I was doing the last 2 days. I wasn't on vacation, I was working. I also bit the inside of my lip 3 times in a row in the same spot, and I feel like that episode of The Office where Jim does it and then says he's going home. I'm already home, but I want to leave because my lip hurts so bad. So I read more of The Making of Asian America. I am farther now. I'm in the middle of chapter 7, South Asian Immigrants and the Hindu Invasion. That's what that one is called. I only have a couple pages left to finish that chapter, but I have very much been enjoying this one, getting a ton out of it. Also constantly writing down people's names and topics and things. I really want to do a deep dive into picture brides from Japan and Korea because I think that will play more into kind of this vibe that I'm going for with figuring out what I'm going to do with the PhD program. I also saw that there's another PhD program that's actually closer to me than the previous one I was looking at, that it's actually through a Women and Gender Studies program instead. And I have a minor in Women and Gender Studies. I've taken a lot of feminism classes and read a lot about gender studies and queer lit and all that kind of stuff. And so I'm now reading more about this program. This might be one that I also want to potentially apply for. But I've been doing a bunch of reading in this one. I also then have a book haul for you guys because I'm out of control and I don't really care. I've been enjoying all the books that I'm buying. And I have been reading then 2 books on my Kindle. The first one is called, I think it's called Crip Theory. And that one is looking at disability advocacy, disability rights, and also queer rights, queer theory. And so far it's been really interesting. So I will insert the cover right here. I got it on a Kindle Daily deal and I've been very much enjoying it. And then the other one, I am finally reading, oh, I can't remember what it's called, but I will insert it right here. But it's talking about the Combahee River Collective, or Combahee River Collective, which gets referenced a lot in a lot of the books that I'm reading, and I didn't know what it was, so I'm looking it up. So the Combahee River Collective is a group that was established, I think, in the 80s of Black feminists that are really fighting for liberation, but also breaking down systems of patriarchy, capitalism, white supremacy, all of that stuff. And so this was their document of like, this is who we are, this is our belief system, this is how we're going to do that. And then it has since spawned other groups. And so this is a book that did an introduction about the history of it, and then also talking more about it and the actual document. And then now it's into interviews with people that are involved. And so I am at the interview portion of this book, but very much enjoying it. I will just go ahead and show you the books that I am currently reading. So I have a book haul for you guys. Being at the airport, I love buying books, and I try to only buy books from like the airport I'm going to, because it's not one that I'm going to be in that often. Like, I don't want to buy books from the Philadelphia airport all too often. Not that I don't want to support the Philadelphia airport, but like, it's boring because I've already been there a billion times. So I'm trying to buy books from like the other airports. I bought books from O'Hare in Chicago. There are two main airports in Chicago, Midway and O'Hare, and we went to O'Hare. So I bought some books from there. The first one that I picked up, I'm so excited to have a copy, is Pachinko by Min Jin Lee. I have been wanting to read this one for so long, and I finally have a copy. And I did not realize how big this book is, but I'm super excited to get to this one. And then I was also very, very excited that I found a copy of Orientalism by Edward Said. This is the 25th anniversary edition, and I skipped the very, very like preface before the introduction, and I am now almost complete reading the introduction. There's just a bookmark in the back. That's not where I am. I'm very much at the beginning of this one, but have really been enjoying it so far. I'm going to continue to enjoy it, I imagine. So Orientalism is looking at Edward Said's views on the East versus West, primarily like France and Britain, and their obsession with Orientalism, with like the Orient, which back in the day was primarily India. Then the United States has made the Orient as in like East Asian countries, so like Japan and China and Korea and all of them. That's probably a really shit description, but so far I am really, really enjoying this one. I don't really know anything about this one, and I am not going to read the back because I don't want to know anything about it. I just want to dive right into it. Then I have a book haul. My husband and I went to Peddler's Village, which is in, I want to say like Lahashka, something like that, Pennsylvania. Peddler's Village is this adorable outdoor kind of mall market kind of deal. It's not like an outlet mall. It's cuter than that, where it's not really chain stores. It's like individual stores. So there's a candy store, there's a bakery, there's a coffee shop, there's a bookstore, there's a whole bunch of clothing stores, there's like a map store that we've gotten some maps from. Super cute. They do like holiday things every year, and they do like festivals and stuff, and so we go a couple times a year, like once a quarter we go, because by that point it has separated enough, they've given enough like new things that it's not like the same stuff every time. But I love the bookstore there. We always go into the bookstore because the bookstore is right next to the toy store, and my husband loves going in the toy store and looking at all the board games and stuff. But we went in the bookstore and I found two books that I'm very, very excited for. The first one that I found, this was not a clearance book, is called Pleasure Activism, The Politics of Feeling Good, written and gathered by Adrienne Maree Brown. Freaking loving this one. It is so interesting to learn about pleasure activism, and pleasure activism is really looking at life and systems and our bodies and how we can enjoy the things that make us happy, and how we shouldn't be like ashamed of that. So it's kind of reforming the word erotic to not just be like a sexual thing, but as a more like sensual, like it's everything kind of thing, which is also a probably shit way of describing it, but it's so interesting so far. Really, really loving that. And then the other one that I saw, when I picked that one up, I saw this spine and was like, hold on. And so I grabbed it. This one is called It Came From the Closet, and it is Queer Reflections on Horror, edited by Jo Valise, or Valise, and I am so excited about this. My sister and my husband were making fun of me the other day. We were talking about books, and my sister was talking about how she knows that it's a book that I'm going to enjoy, or that I would probably pick up if it's like a horror or a retelling or something, but gay. And so I was telling my husband, I was reading, I don't remember what I was reading, but I was saying like, oh, it's like inspired by Frankenstein and all that, and he was like, and I was like, and they're gay. So very much enjoying having all of these books. So especially being a big old gay that loves horror, very excited for this one. And then I found 2 books on the clearance shelf that I was very excited to find. The first one was this one, which I was so excited about. This one is the Tenserate series by Neon Yang, and this one was on clearance for $5. And I've already read the first one. I have the first one, is The Black Tides of Heaven. Freaking loved it, but I don't have any of the other ones. So I don't even have them on ebook. So I've been waiting until they were at my, like, available at my library, but now I have the bind up. So excited for that one. And then the other one I was really surprised to find, so I hope it doesn't mean this one is shit. But this one was $6, and this is The Art of Prophecy, the War Art Saga, book 1 by Wesley Chu. This one just came out, and it's a paper hardback. And it looks like maybe they didn't even try to read it because it's like in perfect condition. It's got this big ass colorful map. So very, very excited for this one. I don't know why it was there, but I'll take it. Those are the books that I have purchased recently. Oh no, I did get another one. I got this one. This is Minor Feelings by Cathy Park Hong. This is an Asian American reckoning. So this is a memoir about being Asian American. I'm very, very excited to get to this one. So this one will be added to my stack of nonfiction that I'm working my way through. Today I have a shit ton of stuff that I have to do to get caught up at work from being kind of out the last 2 days. But once I get that stuff done, or like in between when I take breaks, I will also be doing some reading. I really, really need to get back to this one, Where Research Begins, because I have not gotten back to it since I read the first 2 chapters and did the like pre-work and answered the questions. So especially now that I might be leaning towards women and gender studies or like gender queer studies, very much want to see if I can figure out how I can make that fit in with the other stuff that I've been looking at. So I'm still very much looking at identity theory, identity formation, and then also now adding in the extra parts of disability studies, queer studies, all of that stuff together. Especially, I'm very, very excited for reading more about the concept of picture brides, like I mentioned, from Japan and Korea, and reading more about white men in the United States or from European countries that then kind of fetishize East Asian cultures, or write about them, or both. Or I think that there's a fine line between the men that fetishize East Asian cultures and the ones that are very racist and prejudiced towards those cultures because of their experiences with like Korea and Vietnam. We'll see how this ends up going. It's obviously like way early in the process, but I also know that PhD program applications want you to have a paper that you can submit, some kind of piece of work, and I haven't written a paper since like 2015, I want to say, when I was in grad school. So it's been a really long time. So I'm doing research now to try to figure out a way that, like, a topic that I could use to actually write a paper to use for applications. And applications are due by the end of December. So I have plenty of time. I'm treating it as if this is like a couple semesters, like fake couple semesters to help me with this process. But that is something that I will be working towards. So it's just going to be a lot of reading. I'm kind of making my own comprehensive exam reading list of all of these books, except for the comprehensive exam is just going to be a paper. So maybe what I should actually do is to like create a syllabus for myself, which is probably now what I'm going to spend the next like 20 minutes doing. I have a bunch of shit I have to do for work, so I gotta get doing that, and then I will update you guys later. All right, I wanted to do one last update, and then I want to get this video wrapped up so I can start editing it and get it posted on my channel. I was gonna say my website. I don't have a website. On my channel, so that I can start the next one, because this will be week 4 of me consistently doing vlogs, and so I want to stick with it. But it is another day. It's Thursday. It's almost 9 o'clock. I have just been doing some work stuff. Have a crap ton of meetings to do today. Thursdays are always like a really busy day for meetings for some reason. People want to wrap stuff up before the weekend, I suppose. But because I have such a busy day, I've got my coffee and then I've got an Alani energy drink. This flavor is Cosmic Stardust. It is not my favorite flavor, but it's not terrible. My husband thinks it tastes like those chewable grape ibuprofen, Tylenol, whatever tablets that we used to have as kids. I think it just tastes like weird grape, but maybe it's the same thing. Last night, I did actually dive back into Where Research Begins, and I went in and I tabbed things off, so you can't really see the colors. Well, you kind of can, but the yellow/orangey tabs are just content, like things that I think are interesting, and the greenish blue gray tabs are action items. I am up to chapter 2. I have a billion bookmarks and I still dog-eared this book, but I'm up to chapter 2. I'm not going to dive into chapter 2 yet, because what the end of chapter 1 had you do was like stream of consciousness, go to wherever you're writing everything down, which for me is my Notion page that I've created for this book, and kind of just stream of consciousness, write down all of the questions that you can think that are like interesting right now, that are things that you're wanting to know. And so that's what I've been doing, is just like browsing through some articles, some books, and then trying to gather all of my questions. And from there, then what they recommend doing is, after you've gone through and you've figured out, okay, when I search for specific things in a database and I get a whole bunch of books and movies and articles and all kinds of things, look through and pick out the ones that make you excited, like they give you any kind of good feedback. They talked about how we're bombarded with stimuli all day long and we filter out most of it, otherwise our bodies would give up from being overstimulated all the time. So most people are able to filter it out. I definitely have days where I get hella overstimulated and I need to just like shut down and be in like a dark space for a while. I know a lot of people do. What you do then with all of the articles and stuff as you're reading through is you kind of separate them into categories. So which are the ones that are sticking out to you? Why are they sticking out? Why do you think you were drawn to this one? What is it that, you know, you really like about it? What kind of questions is it making you ask? And then also look at the ones that you're not having a great reaction to, because they can also tell you something about your goals and the things that you're interested in when doing research. And so that's what I was doing yesterday, trying to figure out like the ones that I skip past and I'm like, what is it about them that I don't love? So that I want to spend more time doing, because I think that will also be really important in helping me kind of narrow down into research questions, because that's the whole point of this book, is to take your general research topics and narrow them down into research questions so you can ultimately get at what you're trying to get at and have a good like foundation. That's a very long-winded way of saying that I'm just writing down a bunch of questions and looking through a bunch of research and stuff. And after you've done all that, then what they recommend is creating your own kind of research cohort, committee, group, I forget what they call it, but basically identifying people in your life and then asking them if they would be willing to be on your side, like on your little committee that you create, basically, where you can, what I will probably do is make, like I have a Google Drive section right now where as I download journal articles to read, that's where I save them before I put them on my tablet to actually read and highlight and stuff. And what I'll probably do is build out that Google Drive and have a document that's just like, here's all of my questions and here's all the categories they fall into, here's the resources, you know, that kind of stuff, and share that with those people. And then they will hopefully be people that throughout the process of applying eventually for a PhD, they will be the ones that you can bounce ideas off of and get feedback. So I've identified a couple people, but I'm going to continue to do that because I don't want to identify like 3 people and then have them all be like, no, because it's a big ask to have people take on more reading or learning if it's not something that they're super interested in or really care about. So I don't know that they're not interested or don't care about it. I'm just assuming. That is kind of where I'm at with it. So very much enjoying this book. I think that this will be super duper helpful throughout this whole process. I'm very happy that I decided to grab it. This morning I did another entry into my development diary that I talked about before. So basically what I'm doing is I'm listening to episodes of the Squiggly Careers podcast, and then for each episode going through and taking notes. Most of their episodes, they give you action items. So I'm going through and writing stuff down and trying to answer the questions. So I did that this morning for an episode that was all on top tips for interviews, because I have interviewed a bunch of times for different jobs. I've gotten a handful of them, have not gotten another handful of them. But I applied for another internal job with my company a while ago, and they're starting interviews soon. In the event that I did get an interview, I just want to make sure that I am doing the best that I can, the most that I can, to be a good candidate for their consideration, kind of go from there. But that's what I've been doing. Yesterday I ended up kicking my butt. It was a very, very long day of work. And then I went to Target and then sat on the couch and worked more on research and this book. Today, I don't really know what's going to end up happening because I have a very long day of work, and then my husband wants to go to the gym after, so I need to get my headphones charged for the gym. But I wanted to wrap up this vlog and get started on the next one. So hopefully this has been like somewhat interesting. I noticed that more people watched the last one. So thank you. Hi, hello. I hope that they are interesting as I'm like going along through my life. I don't show a ton of stuff that I do throughout the day because it's kind of boring. I work from home. I wake up, I do the same routine every morning. I get coffee. I'm now at my standing desk. So I know I got footage of me sitting at my standing desk, but maybe I'll try to figure out, see if that angle works for standing at my standing desk, which I am kind of obsessed with. And I have it up way too high right now just so that the camera was more level. This is me procrastinating from getting all the clips onto my laptop and editing them, but I really need to get that going. I need to make my to-do list and then get going. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.